Before the arrival of Christopher Columbus in 1492, the territory now known as the United States was inhabited by numerous indigenous tribes. These peoples had rich cultures and developed societies, adapting to various environmental conditions. From the northern reaches of what is now Canada to the southern states, from the Great Plains to the forests of the eastern seaboard, indigenous peoples lived on these lands for thousands of years. Among the most famous tribes were the Navajo, Hopi, Apache, Cherokee, and others, each with unique traditions, religious beliefs, and social structures. Their lives were deeply intertwined with nature and the surrounding environment, and many were skilled in agriculture and established extensive trade routes. 2. The arrival of Europeans and the beginning of colonization. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas changed the course of history for the continent. By the late 15th century, Christopher Columbus, an Italian navigator sponsored by Spain, opened the way for European colonization of the New World. Initially, the Spanish led the way, followed by the French, English, and Dutch, who began to establish their colonies in the Americas. The English founded the first permanent colony at Jamestown, 1607, and soon expanded their presence along the eastern seaboard. By the early 17th century, several English colonies were established in what is now the United States, each with its own particular approach to governance and economics. Over time, cities and towns developed, and colonists began to settle new lands, although their presence often led to serious conflicts with indigenous peoples. 3. The struggle for independence, revolution and nation-building. In the mid-18th century, the English colonies in America began to feel the pressure from Great Britain. Taxes introduced to cover the costs of the French and Indian War sparked widespread discontent among the colonists, who sought more political autonomy and economic rights. In 1773, the Boston Tea Party occurred, a protest against taxes on tea, in which colonists threw crates of tea into Boston Harbor. This was the first significant step toward revolution. By 1775, the American Revolutionary War broke out between the 13 colonies and Great Britain. The war lasted until 1783, when Britain finally recognized the independence of the United States of America. Following their victory in the Revolution, in 1787, the U.S. adopted its Constitution, which established the political framework for the newly formed nation. The first President of the United States, George Washington, became a symbol of the unity and strength of the new country. 4. Territorial expansion and internal struggles. In the 19th century, the U.S. underwent a period of rapid territorial expansion. One of the most significant moments was the Louisiana Purchase from France in 1803, which nearly doubled the size of the country. This expansion period is often referred to as the Manifest Destiny, as many Americans believed it was their right to expand across the continent. However, this expansion was not without conflict. The Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848, led to the acquisition of land that became modern-day California, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. With this came new disputes, particularly between the North and the South over the issue of slavery. 5. The Civil War and the Reconstruction of the Nation. These disputes eventually led to the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. The Southern states, where slavery was a key part of the economy, chose to secede from the Union and form the Confederacy. The North, led by President Abraham Lincoln, fought to preserve the Union and abolish slavery. The war ended with the defeat of the South, but the country faced the difficult task of rebuilding. Lincoln was assassinated before the war's conclusion, and the nation was left to reconcile the North and South while ensuring the rights of the newly freed African Americans. 6. Industrialization and global influence. After the Civil War, the U.S. entered a period of rapid industrialization. Factories, railroads, and technology quickly transformed the country. By the late 19th century, the United States had become one of the leading industrial nations in the world. Technological innovations such as the electric telegraph, telephone, early automobiles, and airplanes rapidly changed the world. America also became an important player on the global stage, particularly during World War I, 1914 to 1918, when the U.S. joined the Allies. 7. The Great Depression and the New Deal. In 1929, the Great Depression devastated the global economy. High unemployment, bankrupt banks, and factory closures created severe social challenges in the U.S. But during this crisis, President Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, a series of programs aimed at economic recovery, job creation, and social safety nets. 8. World War II and the Cold War rivalry. In 1941, after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. entered World War II. The victory over the Axis powers, including Germany and Japan, positioned the U.S. as one of the two leading superpowers, alongside the Soviet Union. After the war, the Cold War began, a period of geopolitical tension between the U.S. and the Soviet Union that lasted until the late 1980s. Both countries possessed nuclear weapons, and their rivalry played out in all spheres, from the arms race to space exploration and diplomatic crises. 9. Modern times, the 1990s to the present. In the 1990s, following the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union, the U.S. emerged as the world's sole superpower. However, new challenges of terrorism, wars in the Middle East, and economic crises became the focal points of the 21st century. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks had profound impacts, leading to wars and shifting global politics. Today, the United States remains a powerful country, but it faces constant internal struggles over race, economics, and foreign policy. It continues to play a critical role on the global stage, though its future will be shaped not only by its historical achievements but also by its ability to resolve contemporary challenges. Conclusion. The history of the United States is not just a story of war, revolution, and political change. It is also a story of dreams, struggles for freedom, and equality. The U.S. has become a place where anyone had a chance to realize their potential, where new ideas and cultures merged, and despite numerous challenges, the country remains one of the most dynamic in the world.